When we planned this trip a year ago, the water levels were almost 50 feet higher than they are now. The landscape was barely manageable, relentless exposure, flash flooding, and, well, I packed 3 bags of wine. That didn't necessarily make paddling any easier for a variety of reasons. The goal: paddle 40 miles to Forgotten Canyon in an attempt to locate ancient Anasazi ruins and return home safely. Although I'm the only SUP newbie in this group, I am fortunately not alone. I'm accompanied by my wife, Sarah, and her very good friend, Wenlu. This trip was actually Wenlu's idea, and let's face it, for most of these adventures, I'm just trying to keep up. What have I done? Our adventure begins with a flight to Salt Lake City. Here, we gather the group and touch base on the critical components of the trip, finalize last-minute gear, review the route, debrief on the snack plan — we're not about to have any snacksidents around here — and try to get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow, we will be road tripping 300 miles south from Salt Lake City to our launch location at Lake Powell. Good night. We'll see you in the morning. I hope we don't run into any detours. On our drive, we encountered a nasty roadblock due to flash flooding and had to ultimately drive an additional 6 hours to reach our destination. But the scenery was worth it, and we made it. The weather cleared, and we actually got to sleep under the stars last night. Today, we launch. We do one last gear check and head to Bullfrog Bay. From there, we will paddle to our first campsite. Oh, and I should mention, this is my first time stand-up paddleboarding. I'm about to load all of my gear into waterproof duffel bags, strap them to an inflatable board, and paddle until my arms either fall off from exhaustion or sunburn. I honestly hope my board doesn't spring a leak. We set out on the first day in the heat of midday sun, finding ourselves clinging to the canyon walls for shade and occasionally jumping into the water to relieve ourselves from the heat. Our first campsite. Well, I wouldn't say it was a campsite. Given the massive drop in water levels, the campsite we thought we were going to sleep at was inaccessible. So we just had to pick a rock to sleep on that looked somewhat comfortable. The wind only got worse, and I spent hours just trying to get a shade tent up. Anyway, we'll make the most of it. I guess mission accomplished? I don't know. I think we rested. See you tomorrow. Come on. There we go. One thing we learned pretty quickly is that sun equals bad. So for day 4, we decided to leave in the wee hours of the morning before the sun comes up and navigate by moonlight. Today is the biggest day. There's something peaceful about the calm of the morning. But also, are there any monsters out here? Am I the only one afraid of desert lake monsters? Probably. Today is a big day. According to our GPS and map, we should be able to paddle down the Forgotten Canyon to the Defiance House and check out some ancient ruins. Before we can do that, however, we need to make a stop at the bank to make a deposit. Now, if you're not aware what we mean by make a deposit, well, consider yourselves fortunate. But seriously, floating restrooms? How cool is that? We are back on the trail, but we're not gonna make it much further without a coffee break. This spot was actually pretty cool. I got the stove roaring, the coffee brewing, and this is where it starts to go downhill. Some nice coffee burns, but it was worth it. I take some time to think about what I've just done, and we're back on the road. Deeper into the canyons we go. As we got further towards our destination, the water all of a sudden dried up. Uh-oh. Time to take a hike? We tied up our paddleboards and hiked about another mile down Forgotten Canyon through mud and thick vegetation until we began to see signs for the house. This time last year, all of this would have been completely underwater. All right, I don't know if what I'm snagged on, but
Holy sh!
Hike at your own risk. Honestly, this whole trip seems pretty risky, so what's a little more risk? And we made it. Check this out. The Defiance House was discovered by archaeologists in 1959. They were surveying the area that would soon be flooded by the rising waters of Lake Powell due to the Glen Canyon Dam, which was completed in 1966. The Defiance House was occupied from about 1250 to 1285 AD, or a little over 750 years ago. We grabbed a little shade, snapped a couple photos, and we were on our way. On our way to the next campsite, we stopped to make sure that everyone was adequately, hydrated. Onward and upward. Or just onward, I guess. This leg of the trip was a lot more challenging. Just a few miles to the second campsite, and this day will be in the books. And we made it. This campsite was far better than the last one. I mean, check out that view. And after some fun in the sun, we cozied up to a campfire. We did a little fishing and rested up before the long day ahead. Tomorrow, we will be attempting to climb a canyon using some ancestral footholds and exploring some of what turned out to be our favorite canyons yet. Good night. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and spill the tea. After packing up camp and a quick snack, we arrived at the 750-year-old steps. They're actually called Moki. We didn't make it very high. We snapped a couple photos and took our time meandering through some spectacular canyons. We listened to music, hung out, and just had a really nice, relaxing day. There's just something about the desert that really makes you appreciate life. When we got to our final campsite, we had another fire and just enjoyed our final days in the desert. We had a really beautiful night where the sky cleared up, the moon came out, and it almost lit the entire sky. Being close to mostly rocks, you're weirdly in touch with geologic time. More so than human time, the history of the earth, and the brevity of human existence. You begin to appreciate life in a little bit different way. Humans come and go, cities rise and fall, whole civilizations appear and disappear. The earth remains, and the heartbreaking beauty where there are no hearts to break. I sometimes choose to think that humans are a dream and only rock is real. Rock and sun. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next time.